At the end of last session, I suggested that we think about ways we can encourage our children onto the path we want them to follow. If you haven't done that already, please pause the video when the question appears on the screen. If you're meeting with others, perhaps you could spend some time sharing your thoughts with each other.
Much as we might like there to be, there is no one right answer to a question like that. Over the coming sessions, we'll look at some of the things that we think are important. We'll start with the one that is perhaps the most difficult, but probably the most important of all. Go ahead of them on the way, and they will follow. That's what young children do. They copy you. To a large extent, the values that your children have will be the values that you live.
Take a look at the video we're going to show now. To set the scene, I think we'd just come back from the beach and it was windy by the state of our hair. We were offering the girls something to eat that was new to them. Danielle's reluctant reaction is obvious, but look carefully at my reaction.
Try this.
From the front, I can't see it.
Look at Daddy. Blow it.
Come on. Come on, just a little bit.
Darling, try it.
Come on, I'll see you. Just a tiny, not that much, give it a tiny bit. Just try a little bit.
Right, you come here, Zoe, and you can try it.
Hold on a minute, don't get in her face.
Oh, don't get in the way.
Not very nice at all.
And what about Zoe?
Zoe, let's see what you think.
What are the little unfussy ones like?
You see him? It's not too hot,
I
sweetheart.
can't quite, your hands in the way of them.
Oh.
That's it.
Yum, yum.
There you go. What about Mummy?
Disgusting!
What about Mummy?
It's a bit dusty, a little bit.
It's alright.
Mummy's trying to pretend she likes it.
I like.
It perhaps isn't obvious to someone who doesn't know Marika well, but I'm sure from her reaction that she wasn't that keen on the food, and Danielle would have seen that many times. I can't say that Danielle learned to be fussy about food from her mum, but children do pick up and copy behaviour in us that most people wouldn't even notice. As for the big drama Danielle created, I'll leave you to decide who she learnt that from.
Whether or not we intend it, and in ways that others and even we may not notice, we model behaviour to our children and they copy us. Here's another example of our children watching and copying us. Zoe likes photography. It's not a subject I ever remember us talking about as a family. She didn't learn it at school, and she didn't have friends that were into it. How did it happen?
Daddy,
Yeah?
I want to film you.
Well, I'm not sure about that. No, I think, because it's a bit difficult to explain how to use this. You sit over there, go on.
Then,
Yes.
that's 1 minute to film you.
You want to try and film your daddy?
Yeah.
You said you didn't want to go to a cave.
Well, I don't. You're saying.
Right, how about you both snuggle up to each other?
Hang on, I just want to film you a bit.
No, that's enough. That's it, now it's on.
But I was filming you already.
You were, you haven't pressed the button.
Yeah, but I saw you through there.
That doesn't mean it's going. Now you've got to give a commentary, you've got to say what you're doing.
Well, I am filming and so to I just see there.
Not much action.
What children see their parents doing influences them so much more than anything their parents say to them. This doesn't mean that our children have no choice but to copy the same mistakes they see us make. Sometimes they will, but sometimes they'll learn from them. Listen to what Danielle once learnt by being around others.
My first work experience was at a drop-in centre for people struggling with alcohol addictions. It was great. I loved meeting them. I got to learn to make great cups of tea. I was really blessed afterwards to win a prize at London Zoo, very exciting, and to do a speech. And I'm told that I did it to lots of head teachers, didn't know that, and that I started by saying, well, I've learnt that I don't want to become an alcoholic.
Children don't blindly follow what they see. We can talk to them about what we struggle with and they can learn from that. But what really doesn't work is hypocrisy. Now and again, if there are good reasons, we may get away with saying, do what I say, not what I do. But we are unlikely to earn a child's respect, and it is even less likely that they will choose to follow us as they get older if we repeatedly say that.
Try this little exercise with me. Let's fold our arms. Now, fold them the other way. I don't know about you, but it just doesn't feel right for me. Doing what our parents did is like folding our arms the way that comes naturally. It's what we're used to. But we may make a conscious choice to do things differently to our parents, and that needs a lot of thought, as it may not come naturally at first.
We are talking about our children and how they copy us. But it's also interesting to think about us as children and how we have responded to the way our parents parented us. Are we copying what they did? If so, do we need to rethink that? Or is there more that we could learn from them? Are we reacting by doing the opposite to what they did? If so, are we overreacting? Or do we feel that we are still too like them? Have a think about ways that as a parent you are copying what your parents did. Maybe things that you're doing very differently. If you're with others, share your thoughts with them. Learning from our parents isn't anything new. Remember Moses, of Prince of Egypt fame? This is his advice as to how the people of Israel were to teach their ways to their children.
These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them down on the door frames of your houses and your gates.
You may not share mine or Moses' faith, and so what you teach your children could be different. But the principles are the same. It's not enough to put your children in a class or give them a book to read or to ask someone else to speak to them. You have to live it yourself. Talk about what's important to you when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up.
One of the ways that some Christians respond to this teaching of Moses is by taking time after a meal to read and talk about the Bible together. If this is done well, it teaches children not just what the Bible says, but to think about it well and to listen to and learn from the views of others. Whatever you believe, teach it well, and your children will come to treasure its importance and the time you've spent with them.
Whatever it is you value, you communicate its importance by giving it time. But if you're teaching a set of beliefs or values, what do you think happens if the words that come out of your mouth don't match the life that you are living? For example, how do we teach the importance of loving one another? Home is a place where we should feel able to be honest about our frustrations and struggles. But do we speak with grace and kindness about people we find difficult? Do the jokes that we tell show a respect for others, or do we tear down those that are different to us? What does what we read or watch online or on TV communicate to our children? There are little eyes and ears absorbing all these lessons. It causes confusion for them if we say one thing and live something else.
Let's go back to your answers to the question, which path do I want my child to follow? And ask ourselves another question. How does how I live show my child the way to that path? If you're with others, do share your answers with one another. Perhaps the most important thing our children see when they look at us is the way that we relate to other people. If you're married or living with someone, your relationship with your spouse or partner can have a huge impact on your children. Whatever our situation, the attitudes we show towards the people around us show our heart to our children.
Relationships are messy. While it's not helpful for children to live in an atmosphere of regular tension, they can certainly thrive in the normal ups and downs of family relationships. I remember once when our family was driving somewhere, Marek and I were having a disagreement about something quite strongly. I suddenly realised that Danielle was loving what was going on in front of her and wanted to dive in and help us sort it out. You may think this odd, but that actually encouraged me greatly. Behind what Danielle was saying was a deep felt belief that differences can be resolved. She expected her parents to talk this issue through until they understood each other, and she wanted in on the action.
This isn't everyone's experience. For whatever reason, parents can separate or have very different views on which path they want for their child. If this is your situation, I'd really encourage you to find someone that you trust to support you in the difficulties it can create. I do believe that there's always hope in every situation. None of us can fully control our circumstances, but we can control our reactions to them. And in time, our children will see and understand that.
What about our children? What have they seen in our parenting that they want to practice if they have children? And what are they sure that they don't want to do for their children?
Wow, what a question to answer publicly, but a very good question. Family time. We had family meals, we had family holidays. Not an option for everyone, I know, but staycations if possible. Just having that time when mum and dad are more relaxed. And also for us with Green, because we were in the city, was amazing. I went to primary school and I was actually in the ethnic minority, and that was great. Great to learn about other cultures from a young age. I did also, outside of school, have friends from a more similar cultural background, which I think was important too. Negatives, what a question. So mum's very soft-hearted, but she, kind-hearted, but is also too soft. So when I got a crazy amount of homework, she then would let me off my housework. At 18, I then went to Cameroon for 6 months and was super embarrassed because other girls my age could do way more cooking and stuff than me. I think it would have been better to teach me time management to get a good balance, work-life balance. And this one could cause heat even now, if I'm completely honest with you. Dad is a leader. He's used to him being heard. He's used to being in charge, and there's good reasons for that because he is wise. But I wish he'd been more self-aware of that as a parent, because I did listen to him even if it didn't look like I was. And so when it came to say something like university, I wasn't sure. He gave me his very strong opinion, and I was therefore swayed by it. And I actually don't know that that was the right course to do, and that's had a lot of that's a consequence that stays with you for a long time.
I reckon that one that I'll definitely use on my own kids is discipline. I wouldn't say theirs was overly strong, as I guess many of us expect in the extreme sense, but it was definitely vividly there. And I think that has made an effect longer term in a good way. Another one would be pushing me out of my comfort zone, especially being a quiet older two siblings. I think it's enabled me to have more adventures, and it's also encouraged me to go more out of my comfort zone as an adult and feel more comfortable doing that. Also, Bible stories is something that I remember really enjoying as a kid, partly just because it was just a really nice time as a family, even if that was just with one parent. And a lot of the stories I still remember now. Things that I wouldn't teach my kids or do with my kids probably be make them share a bedroom. Me and Danielle shared a bedroom until when I was in sixth form, and I got to admit I did enjoy it in some ways, but I think that the more we got into our teens, the more I would have enjoyed the freedom of it, because having your own room does allow a bit more freedom.
Over to you now. Have things come to mind that you are modelling that you know aren't helpful for your children? Are there changes you can make or help you can access? If you're doing this with others and are comfortable sharing this with them, do tell them and talk about it together.
Don't ever think that these things can't be changed. I know people that have had really tough childhoods, yet have been able to turn that around for their children. If you can't see how you're going to do that, talk to someone who believes that you can.
Next session, we're going to talk about one of the biggest challenges parents face, which I found particularly difficult. For now, it's time for Daniel and Zoe to say goodbye.
What about us on the slide together?
No,